Hello and welcome to the Matsunoki Cafe. I'm Shiro, the owner. Here I'd like to talk about just whatever is considered nerdy or nostalgic that's on our minds, whether it be video games, TV shows, or movies. So, whether you're new here or a returning customer, why don't you stick around and enjoy the conversation with your cup of joe? So originally I had this whole introduction where I talked about Octopath 2 seemingly not getting a ton of attention compared to the original game, but since I wrote that introduction segment, there was a bunch of new content about the game coming out, and it's been mentioned in videos about other games. So yeah, it's not as hidden of a gem as I initially thought. To be fair, I didn't even know Octopath Traveler had a sequel until I randomly spotted it at Target one day. I did a quick Google search on my phone to check that I didn't need to play the first game to hop right in, and I bought Octopath 2 so I could have something to play on my Switch during the summer. It was either that or letting it collect dust because the Xenoblade well has gone dry at the moment. Now, I knew nothing about Octopath Traveler before I picked up 2. I only heard its name mentioned here and there. I had zero expectations for this game when I started playing it. And now, after having finished all the stories, I'm here to tell you why this game is a pretty good RPG that's worth checking out if you're a fan of the genre. There are 8 playable characters in this game, each with their own storyline told between 3 to 5 chapters. When you begin a new game, you're given brief descriptions of the 8 adventurers and asked to select which one of them you want to start with. This starring character will basically serve as the main protagonist of your playthrough, and you'll be forced to keep them in your party until you complete their specific story. As for me, I picked Hikari because his art looked cool and I've got a soft spot for RPG swordsmen. The first chapter of Hikari's story was honestly a perfect place to start the game for me. You're immediately thrown into the middle of a big battle, hooking you in narratively while also providing a very early opportunity for combat tutorials. The chapter serves as a fantastic introduction to Hikari as a character, and does a great job of setting up his conflict with his tyrannical half-brother, Mugen. In order to stop his brother and bring peace to his homeland, Hikari journeys out to find powerful allies, which was a great in-universe motivation for me, the player, to go out and recruit the other travelers. When you meet the other 7 you didn't pick and have them join the party, you're given the opportunity to play through their first chapters. This is where I discovered the double-edged sword to Octopath's story structure. For any story of any medium, leaving a good first impression is pretty important. With Octopath, the player can have 8 different first impressions, depending on who they choose as their starting character. Obviously, some characters have way better and more interesting stories than others. After finishing Hikari's first chapter, I recruited Particio and Agnia as my second and third party members respectively, and I found their first chapters to honestly be a little boring. If I had started with those 2, I don't think I would have been as invested to keep playing the game early on. I enjoyed the 2 as characters and I came to appreciate their stories for being more cheerful than everyone else's, but they weren't all that compelling to follow in my opinion. My other issue with Octopath's story structure is more of a nitpick than anything. Because you can start with whoever you want and recruit the other 7 in whatever order, the 8 character stories are told completely separate from one another. All the cutscenes in Oswald's story only feature Oswald and none of the other party members. While it's unfortunate the other characters aren't involved in the slightest in each other's main stories, I understand why it's the case. If they did try to include other party members in each other's stories, it would have been something similar to Chrono Cross, where they would take a line of dialogue and reword it to best fit whoever is saying it. They would all say the same thing, but Particio would say it in his funny accent. I do respect the workarounds the dev team made to provide party interactions outside of the main chapters. Octopath 2 includes side stories called Crossed Paths, where 2 characters interact as they partake in a short story together. There are also many smaller conversations that are similar to skits in the Tales series, which can be viewed between main story cutscenes or hanging out at taverns. While it's unfortunate that voice party interaction doesn't occur more often throughout the game, the interactions that are present in the final product are fine enough. Story is just one aspect of this game. Another important aspect to look at is the gameplay. Octopath revels in the 2D aesthetics and general structure of classic JRPGs, especially older Final Fantasy games. It has refined the traditional turn-based battle system to a science. The flow of battle is to find out what weapon or magic element an enemy is weak to, and striking those weaknesses to lower its shield points. By breaking its guard, the enemy is unable to act for the current turn and the next turn. Each character has a starting class that restricts them to using particular weapons or elements. Hikari is a warrior, so he's primarily using swords, or lances. On the flip side, Acnea is a dancer who uses knives and wind spells to fight. Various towns and locations on the wide map have unique NPCs who grant the player the ability to equip secondary jobs onto the player. Not only does the secondary job give a character another set of skills and increased stats, but they also gain the capacity to use more weapon types than what their primary job gives them. So if anyone can be the thief or the merchant, what does each individual character have to make you pick them over everyone else? A few things actually. The orb above the HP bars is for a character's latent power. When the character breaks the enemy's last shield or receives damage, the meter for their latent power goes up until the orb is full. Once it is, you can use that character's special ability on their next turn. Each of the 8 characters have their own unique latent power. Just as a couple examples, the cleric Temenos has the latent power to make any offensive attack he performs that turn to break an enemy's shield, even when using a weapon they're not weak to. And Oswald's latent power turns his AoE magic into single target spells, with the trade-off of doing more damage to that singular foe. 2 other traits that make characters unique from each other are their respective talents and set of path actions. A character's talent is an ability only that specific party member has access to, which has some sort of effect in battle. Throne and Temenos both have talents that only activate when encountering enemies at night, but Throne debuffs enemies while Temenos provides free buffs to the party. Path actions are a set of game mechanics that you use when interacting with NPCs. Every character has 2 path actions, one for daytime and one for nighttime. While multiple path actions accomplish the same general effect, Cassidy's Inquire and Oswald's Scrutinize are both used to gain information out of an NPC. Path actions of the same category have their own flair to it. NPCs have items on them you could obtain through these path actions. If you have enough money on you, you could use Partitio's purchase option to just buy it from them. If you can't afford it, you can have Oswald mug them. If Oswald can beat the NPC in a fight, you get all the items they had for free. Congratulations, you're a fucking menace. A few characters' path actions and talent go hand in hand with each other. Hikari is a shining example of this. The path action you'll be using the most in this story is challenging NPCs to a one-on-one duel. If you win the duel, Hikari's learned skills talent allows him to equip a unique skill that was possessed by that NPC. Yes, Hikari can have 3 different sets of skills. Is it any wonder guides will tell you he's one of the best characters in the whole game? Because secondary jobs can make any team of 4 cover all possible weaknesses, latent power and talent are the most important factors to consider when deciding what your main team of 4 will end up being. My endgame team ended up being Hikari, Oswald, Throne, and Temenos. But as I said, any team of 4 can be really good so long as you pick the right secondary jobs to make them really synergize well. Another great thing about this game is the music. The soundtrack is just outstanding. One detail I love is the various boss themes. Each party member has their own character theme that plays during pivotal moments of their story. During the final boss fight of a character's story, that character's theme music will be added into the regular boss track. It goes so hard every single time and never fails to get me hyped. It's just amazing that all these different themes are able to transition so well back into the boss theme. As someone who picked Hikari as my first character, hearing the journey for kingship ends legit gave me goosebumps. It's such a cool detail that made me fall in love with the entire OST. Finally, I want to touch on the graphics of this game. As I said before, this game's visual style is very reminiscent of classic 2D JRPGs from the SNES days. You have small 2D sprites running around and interacting with the world. The HD backgrounds and locales you'll see while exploring Octopath 2's world is outright beautiful. The sprites for enemies are also surprisingly well done. Something cool this game does is that bosses get unique sprites that are much larger than the normal kind. The fact the boss is visually huge compared to your party members really helps to set the bosses as threatening foes to test your skills. The special artwork of the characters are really well drawn. I love how the party members look in this style. Unfortunately, there's not that many of these drawings in the game. Outside of the menus, the only times you see this art is when you complete each character's story and after you finish the game. I think the game could have benefited from including artwork to portray pivotal moments of a character's journey that weren't the end. The stories are great as they are now, but I think that addition will make important scenes more memorable. At the end of it all, I enjoyed the time I spent playing this game. If you're looking for a good old turn-based RPG to scratch that itch, look no further than Octopath Traveler 2. I'm glad I got to experience this game, and I'm definitely considering checking out the first game. In the meantime, though, I've got other videos to work on. I promise uploads are going to be more frequent. If you're new here, please subscribe so you don't miss those new videos when I get them out. Just subscribing and watching my videos when they come out really helps me as a creator, so I would definitely appreciate it. Stay safe out there, everyone.